Welcome to Table Talk 2.5, where today we're joined by a special guest. We've got a long and meandering ombudsman report, so go ahead and strap in. All right, welcome everyone to Table Talk 2.5 for the GRU campaign.
GRU 0.5.
Yeah. Special guest today for this Table Talk, we have Caboose, who longtime listeners might remember from our most downloaded ever session, Downtime Shackles of Blood. So, Caboose, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, I would like to adopt more of a daytime talk show type format.
Yeah, I'll have some applause play, and I'll have some laugh tracks later.
Yeah, and in fact, if we could get a physical set with some plants and like cups of coffee that I assume don't actually have anything in them, that would be great. Like awkward couches.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. So Caboose is the heir to the spalted dolphin fortune. So why don't you talk to us about that for a little bit before I get into the ombudsman report?
Yeah, sure. A few years ago, I got sucked into watching YouTube videos of people sawing logs on a sawmill, and it's like, I need to do this too. This looks like a blast of fun, and so I got a sawmill. It was good, but that's morphed into woodworking, and sold the sawmill and used that to buy woodworking tools. So been making stuff. I knew I wanted to make something with all my wood. I have thousands of board feet laying around, and I made a few dice trays, and it was felt hooked. I was like, this is a lot of fun, using interesting woods that I have, because I didn't mill like clear grain, no knot wood. I was milling whatever I could get my hands on. So I have some funky stuff laying around, and pairing that with random pieces of leather. I was really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun. So started making dice trays, and I'm experimenting with other designs of dice trays. But I'm sure this is morphing to some other TTRPG stuff, maybe some custom TTRPG pieces. And my wife is also a seamstress and is sewing dice bags, and she's having a good time doing that as well. So, one-stop shop.
Could you take us on your TTRPG journey?
Yeah, my TTRPG journey. I played it once, like a few sessions when I was 10, like, half of people somehow. I don't know. I'm certainly not the first person who's had that experience. And then
What was that game that you played when you were a kid?
D&D, and it was whatever the first edition, the starter pack that my dad has. He still has that. He actually, yeah. So that was fun, but I just, the opportunity never came up. And then Duncan moved nearby, and he was like, "Hey, I have a lot of I play TTRPGs now." I was like, "Sign me up." And that was probably 2 years ago now. And
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's just kind of been progressing more and more until last December, I think it was, where we started doing reoccurring in-person gaming at my house with family and friends in the area, and started playing DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics, and that has really taken off because everyone was like, this has been missing, this is a piece of my life that's been missing. I want to do this all the time. And that also fueled I need to check out these making dice trays and explore that avenue of woodworking, and really enjoyed it. And now I'm full blown into DCC, but I played Pathfinder last night. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's was slow start, and now it's all head flank cavitate.
Very specific terminology for full steam ahead. But yeah, so you can find quality dice trays and dice bags on their store on Etsy, which will be in the links.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you like what you see on there, you should buy it right away because it doesn't tend to stay up for that long based on what I've been looking at.
No, and everything's a one-of-one custom piece. This isn't like drop down and order 5 of the same wood and same leather or bottom piece. Everything's one-of-one for now.
Yeah.
Yep, I've got an in-person game today that I'll be bringing my dice tray to, and I can't wait to show it off once again and make everyone totes jelly of what I've got.
Awesome. That is very exciting for me, at least.
Yeah, and I'd like to gush for a minute. So, we have been longtime admirers and sometimes detractors of Wormwood. They make really cool stuff, but I think we've often criticized their tables for being like weirdly small for the price. They're beautiful, but the trays themselves are great. The Spalted Dolphin trays are similar to the Wormwood ones, like in terms of form factor, but they're thicker and louder and tend to have like bigger feet on the bottom and stuff like that. They're like much chunkier versions of those same products, and so they feel very satisfying. I have a few of them in my kind of kit that I use when I run in-person games, because some of my players have their own dice trays or dice towers or things like that, but in many cases they don't, or they don't when they start playing. If it's something they're relatively new to, or they didn't realize they were going to be able to play today, and now they are. I have a few extras I can throw down on the table, and they're always a hit.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really glad to hear. I've talked about this before, but I am workshopping louder trays.
I don't know how, but I can't
They
wait.
have speakers built in.
Yeah,
Like a drum bottom.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, my wood bottom trays are much louder than the leather ones, as you'd expect. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
Here's my thing. I want, I've got my setup here. I'm playing at the desk. I want it to blow out my mic. I want to get peaking when I roll my dice.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we need, I think, is it's got to be a tray that has like a hollow sort of guitar bottom that also comes with a mount, like it straps onto the top of your boom mic. So when you roll a die, it just sounds like a gun going
Yeah, I
off.
want it to sound like I'm slapping my mic arm. It's just like a kind of situation every single time I roll.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a drop-in,
especially for
pickup.
Delta Green. It should scare the players every time I roll.
Yeah. Oh
And to
shit.
give me nightmares in particular.
By the way, I've been saying Spalted Dolphins this whole time with an S. It's just Spalted Dolphin.
That's great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
For now.
So I had that wrong.
It will develop into a pod, so they will become Spalted Dolphins at some point. Okay, and with that, I'll move into the Ombudsman report. So, funny thing happened earlier in the week. I think it was on Tuesday. I checked the Simplecast page just to see how downloads were going for the podcast, and I saw that we had 74 downloads on Monday. And I was like, oh my god, this is huge. We've never had this many downloads. Like, we've never had anywhere close to this many downloads on one day. And I was looking to see, like, what happened here. Because when I looked at the main page, it didn't look like any of the individual episodes had gotten a ton more downloads than they already had. So I was like, what happened? But I got real excited, and I posted it to the Discord. And then Duncan revealed that he had gotten a new phone and just downloaded all of the podcasts, which contributed almost all of the downloads to the high count for that day. So I had a brief moment of elation, thinking that we had finally made it as a podcast, and it turns out we still haven't.
Well, the funny part is I got very excited. When you posted that, I thought, wow, that's really cool. And we talked about this when we started recording the podcast. Frankly, I was pretty resistant to the idea because I was concerned that recording a podcast of our sessions would, I don't know, like it was going to change it, maybe diminish it in some way. Like maybe people would be more careful about what they were saying, or I would have to prepare a lot more, or I don't know. I just thought it would change the character of the games in a way that wasn't going to be good. And I was concerned that people would be more focused on podcasting than they were on playing the game, which is what I wanted to do. I pretty much changed my mind right away. Like when I listened to our first session, because I thought part of the reason I wasn't excited about podcasting was I didn't think I would want to listen to it because I didn't want to hear myself. I'm, one of those people who is not thrilled to hear their own voice on a recording. And anyway, changed my mind right away because the first sessions were so much fun. So then we've talked a little bit about like what would it be like if this was actually a little more popular, and it's kind of an interesting thought. So when when it looked like maybe things were taking off a little bit, I thought, like that's pretty cool. And then I realized when you said the region that the downloads came from, I was like, oh, that was, I forgot that I re-downloaded everything yesterday.
That was just me. Yeah. Yeah, so the other thing with stats is that I decided that it's not really interesting for me to talk about, to just announce a number every time about this, how many downloads we have, unless we have a significant milestone, like, for example, when if we ever pass like 10,000 downloads total, I'll announce it then. But in the meantime, I just don't see it as terribly fruitful for me to say a number that's gone up by like 30 every week.
What's interesting, my wife listens to the podcast as well, and I was explaining how you might take guests on this Delta Green game because she was like, oh yeah, I realized I really miss playing Delta Green. It's such a fun system. I was like, you could be a guest on there. She said, no way, the podcast is huge. They're getting downloads from Polynesia and Africa and all over the world. Sure. Like, it's too intimidating for me. I was like, no, it's okay. So she wants to play. She's one of the people that's intimidated by being on a podcast, but
by fame,
by the fame that you all enjoy. But she's interested.
Yeah, I mean, we are international superstars. I don't think that's in question.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, I would definitely love to have her play either on the podcast or, I mean, we need to just run another game in person soon.
Yeah.
We've talked about it for a little while. It's a question of, well, and maybe this is an interesting table talk topic for a second. So previously, the way that we had been doing games at Caboose's place was, he has a nice big house with plenty of space for entertaining, and a big enough yard that people that are coming with dogs or young kids or something like that, like they have space to run around and they aren't like cramped or locked down while the adults are playing these games. And so we would normally make it a full day sort of experience. We would kick off at 10 and go until, after dinner in some cases, with a couple of meals in between, and we would play a series of different types of games. But previously it was more wargaming oriented, a mix of historical and science fiction or fantasy wargaming. And then we started doing DCC as well, and that has taken off. But we've never done, like, DCC was the first thing that we played that was a TTRPG, not a pretty straight war game where people are moving pieces around, but they're not doing voices or solving mysteries or anything like that. And so we were a little apprehensive about doing DCC, but we had a really good session and it got a lot of people interested. Delta Green is probably like a little too far in terms of like we're definitely not wargaming anymore.
It's all the way in roleplay territory.
Right. And so on the one hand, there are absolutely people there that would enjoy playing Delta Green, but we don't want to alienate the people who are there to do wargaming, who maybe are already a little miffed by the kind of DCC angle that we've taken in recent months.
Yeah. When you're on a tabletop gaming commune like you guys are now, you got to really take
we prefer a compound.
The compound. Yes, right. You got to take the whole group's health into account, which makes it a little more difficult. But I admire you for the effort. Next thing for Ombudsman report. So near the beginning of tabletop, Jack was really hitting car phones really hard, assuming that, and this wasn't Table Talk, I don't remember how it came up, but that Simon would definitely have a car phone in his car. So I wanted to look into that and like how prevalent were car phones in the late 80s, mid 90s, that kind of thing. And I didn't conduct a ton of research. I could not find any numbers at all.
Really?
Like how common they were. Mm-hmm. So what everything said was that these things have been around for a while. Like, early patents were from like way earlier in the 20th century. But when it comes to like, did the average car have a car phone in, let's say, 92 or something like that? Couldn't find that anywhere.
I don't think so. I mean, I think they were somewhat expensive, but I remember seeing car phones in Seinfeld.
Yes, as do I. That was like where I saw it the most.
Yeah.
But not everybody had them. Like Jerry had a car phone in his Saab, or no, was he driving? Yeah, he drove a Saab in the show, I think. But anyway,
do they make cars anymore? I don't think they do.
No, they stopped.
Yeah.
No, cars don't. I mean, with the advent of space travel,
it's over.
Cars stopped
Hover
being
cars are coming any day now.
several years ago.
I think hover cars are supposed to come just after nuclear fusion does.
Yeah, any second. But so yeah, my instinct is that most cars did not have them. Like that was a luxury item, but I can't actually find any numbers to back that up. So I got nothing.
But I feel like a police cruiser though would have it. Or you'd have to have some way to like notify the precinct if something's happening, right?
Yeah, probably got a radio.
That would be with radio.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, even now, that would be with radio.
Yeah, so I've got a radio, but I would be surprised if my unmarked cop car had a car phone.
Okay, understand that your car has a car phone.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, so
there's no walking it back now. It's canon.
So we were talking ADD at one point versus ADHD. Just as a technical note, so ADD is the outdated term. ADHD now covers all things that ADD used to cover. And that change has actually made it much farther or longer ago than I thought. So when the APA released the updated version of DSM-3 in 87, ADD was no longer there and ADHD was the officially recognized condition.
So what you're saying is when I said ADD during the session, that was a period appropriate term.
No, you were still outdated by 8 years.
No, not as a psychologist, but as a layperson.
Sure, I don't know. I just thought it was funny
closed.
because I thought the transition to ADHD was recent, like with the DSM-5 or something like
same.
that. Nope, apparently not. So
I didn't even know there was a transition.
Yeah,
It's been like 40 years, no problem.
Yeah.
Someone in the psychological community had told me that within the last couple of years, so that's why it was in my head. But I thought she had said it was in the DSM-5, so I was wrong. In that same conversation, we were talking about attention spans declining, and I'll link some of the stuff I found about that. But there were some studies that CNN had cited. I forget who did. I think it was someone in Canada. Or no, it was Microsoft had done had sponsored a study in Canada, and it was saying that between 2005 and whenever they did this, I think it was 2018, that attention spans had declined. But what was interesting to me was the times they were saying was attention spans have declined from 12 seconds to 8 seconds, I was like, I don't know what they mean by attention span, so I didn't read the whole thing, like the actual study, so I'm not 100% sure what they were actually talking
Would
about.
you say the fact that you didn't read the whole thing speaks to your lack of attention span?
Yeah, I got distracted, so it's just
Do you think it would have
things came
helped
up.
if there was a video of like Neapolitan ice cream
Yeah,
alongside
sure.
the article?
I didn't actually click on that link, and I meant to.
I forgot what
Yeah.
that was because I did find
Sludge videos.
Yeah, sludge videos. It's wild.
So was sludge video a term, or is that like a certain product?
It is a term.
Okay.
It's like, and this is kind of a new thing for me, but it's like sludge videos seems to be kind of similar to stitch videos, which is something that I hadn't run into before. It's a new terminology that I discovered this week, where I don't know if you guys have had this experience lately, but I'll run into situations where I'm just too old, and I'll run into terminology where I just don't know what it means. I'm like shit, and I just feel ancient, and I can feel my skin like wrinkling. But I was on Reddit and kept seeing videos that said "Stitch incoming." I was like, what is that? What does that mean?
I have a couple guesses, but they're probably all wrong.
Yeah, I also I was making assumptions, but I didn't know. And then one of the people I work with, who's a bit younger than me, said, "Oh, that just means that it's just like two videos that are getting spliced together. Like one video plays and then another video plays, and that's a stitch." Oh, okay.
All right, that makes sense. I guess checks out.
So the reason that people were putting Stitch incoming as like a text block at the beginning of the video was so that I guess you would understand that you're watching one thing and then the content creator is going to be giving a reaction afterwards, right?
So don't hit that dial, because
No, stick around for another, understand you're only going to be sticking around for 12 seconds, but
sure.
There
But
is
there's
a
another
hot
12
take.
seconds after that.
Yeah, hot take
The
incoming.
last 4 is going to be a different video.
It's going to be
Frequently,
some zoomer going like, "Oh, what?" and making crazy faces, because that's all it is these days.
exactly. Frequently reacting to very popular videos that they assume you've seen already, and the reactions are usually bad, or they're commenting because these.
Oh, I actually have an attention span related conspiracy theory to share.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
So,
This is going to
Oh,
become a
were you talking
problem.
the whole time? Yeah, so you keep falling off, or you go, and then we don't hear you anymore. You could be talking right now.
No, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. You're probably on Wi-Fi. And
This is going to be great podcast material, though, if he's talking and we're going, yeah. What's happening?
we'll just
think
Stitch
so.
incoming. We're just going to have Caboose's whatever he says, and then after that, spliced onto it will be a bunch of reactions.
Have fun with that, Shepard.
yeah. But go ahead with your conspiracy theory.
Oh, Mike. So here we go. I for a long time I've been using a cell phone that I bought back in 2019. It's been doing a pretty good job, but recently I had subjected it to enough abuse that it stopped working reliably. So I went to buy a new phone, and I guess I shouldn't have been as surprised by this, but I was hoping I would be able to get something slightly smaller, and that is, of course, not an option. I had to get something that's about the size of, about the size of what used to be called a tablet,
Right.
and I couldn't help but think, like, why is this happening? Because I've heard other people express a desire for smaller phones, but they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's not because of some technological constraint. Until I realized that a consequence of phones getting bigger and bigger is that in many cases now, people don't put them in their pockets. They carry them, or when they sit down, they take them out and put them on the table. So I think phones have deliberately been made bigger so that you either keep them in your hand or put them on the table, but they always stay in front of you.
Oh, okay.
it's uncomfortable. Like, you can't keep it in your back pocket when you sit down or anything like that. It's too big for your front pocket. You got to carry it in your back pocket. You don't want to sit on it. They've engineered it so that you are interacting with it all the time, like by nature of its form factor. So you can't put it in your jacket pocket or anything like that. It's going to be out. You're going to use it. They're going to sell you shit.
That's interesting. Yeah, I have realized that my phone barely fits in my pants pockets. I'm a dude. I have pockets.
Sure.
And it's like almost sticking out the top. And I didn't even get the big version. I got the regular version of the iPhone 14. So I went to go get a haircut the other day, and when I know I'm only going to be sitting somewhere for like 10 minutes or less, I will not take my phone out.
Just on principle.
Just on principle, yeah. I'm gonna sit there and I'll look around and observe what's going on around me, and I'll just think about stuff, because I've always got projects I'm working on or whatever, and so I'll spend some time thinking about that while I'm waiting for whatever is going on.
Right, normally like for about 8 seconds at a time.
For about 8 seconds, and then I take my
next
phone
one.
out. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's on principle, because frankly, the stuff I'm doing on my phone is usually a waste of time. Like, I'm not doing something productive. I'm just scrolling through memes or whatever. But when you do that, what you do notice is, unless people come into a place together and are talking to each other, and even then, sometimes they're still gonna have their phone in their hands. They're gonna walk in with their phone in their hands. They're gonna sit down and they're just gonna like stare at their phone and like completely get lost in whatever they're doing there. Like, I don't know. I find it to be an incredibly unattractive thing for people to do. And I'm not perfect about that. Like, I do that kind of thing enough that I'm part of the problem. But I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, socially, this is, I don't know what you would call it, a preference or a discriminator that I sort of have now. I have had and essentially lost friends over this before, where you have lunch with them, and as soon as you sit down at the table, they put their phone on the table. If there's any lull in the conversation, or maybe there isn't even a lull in the conversation, maybe the phone just beeps, and that's it. Phone's in the hand, they're looking at that now, and you feel like you have to compete with it to get their attention back, or I don't know. I mean, this was something that for a brief period when cell phones were new, it was rude to look at your cell phone when someone was talking to you. Or it was rude to pull your cell phone out at the dinner table or something like that. But that was back when families had dinner together, which I don't know if that's like a thing anymore. Yeah, it's like there's no TV on. It's like a group of people sitting around a table having a conversation, often ones that extend even longer than 12 seconds, sometimes like minutes long. Yeah, but I mean, part of it is how you sort of structure your life, like what the nature of your work is. I know people who need to have a cell phone on them and have to be somewhat attentive to it because they may be on call or they're managing something that requires, you know, their periodic or irregular attention, and it's going to happen through the phone. But more than that, I just know a lot of people who, like, they're just waiting for that next dopamine hit.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating. So I find myself trying to, I either find groups or build groups of friends that are like have better phone discipline than that.
Well, I think we've discussed it, where like if I'm not on call, I believe you do the same thing. If I'm going out and gonna like get dinner with somebody, I'll leave my phone in the car.
Yeah,
because it's just
you
get so much more out of the interaction when that's not even on the table.
Yeah, and like a lot of other things, I think it's one of those. It's something that you may do out of habit without thinking about it. But then if you actually sit down and evaluate it, the sitting and scrolling on your phone constantly kind of stuff doesn't make you feel better. It's not, it's not even something you really enjoy.
No, and it gets you nothing as well. Like you not only do you not enjoy, there are things that I don't enjoy, but I do them anyway because it's productive. This, like, if I end up kind of down a rabbit hole on my phone, 2 hours later, I will put it down and go, boy, I wish I'd done something else with that 2 hours. Right. You know, like, I gained nothing from this.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, similarly, I take a lot of walks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a typical old person hobby, because I
You
probably
feed the
only have a
birds.
few years left of being able to walk.
You're just getting ready for fly fishing, working up to it.
Right. And I will, in many cases, if I have, I don't know, ordered food that I'm going to walk half a mile down the road to pick up, or I'm going to meet some friends at a bar or something like that, and I figure it's a nice day, it's 45 minutes, but why don't I walk? The first thing I'll think is, oh, maybe I should listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that on the way. But if I don't do that, and more I'm not doing that, just being outside in any kind of weather on any day, walking around is very pleasant. And I pretty much always enjoy it. And every time I do that, I wonder, like, why don't I do this all the time? This is great. And it's definitely better without listening to something. Like, I enjoy walking.
Now, that being said, listeners, don't let that discourage you from listening to late afternoon gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right, and big caveat, except for late afternoon gaming. So I've stopped walking now.
Right, yeah. So I can sit immobile, stare at a wall, and listen to late afternoon gaming.
I just sit in my dark apartment and listen to this podcast. So please don't misinterpret what I said. Don't go outside.
Right.
Don't go to the bar with your friends. Listen to the podcast.
Now, you can have a party at your house, but it's let's listen to late afternoon gaming party.
Yeah, and we'll just sit there
Right.
with blindfolds on.
Right. Yeah, have your friends all sit quietly. They can have a beverage, but ideally not one that is acoustically irritating.
no ice.
Like nothing with
Right.
ice that's going to clink against the glass.
Everybody also has their phones out. You look at your phone, you've got your glass in your other hand with no ice, and then you're listening to late afternoon gaming, and it's maximum engagement, maximum clicks.
Yeah. Or if you want to have a late afternoon gaming rave.
Oh,
Like a
sounds
headphone
awesome.
party.
Yeah, exactly.
Where everyone shows up with their, whatever their headphones of choice are. And you all sync up and listen to the podcast simultaneously. Those are very popular, I'm told.
So,
Sure.
by the way, speaking of walking, I saw I read an article recently about America is just not very, or the United States, I should say, is not a very walkable country, just in general.
I've been seeing this all over the place.
There's a mother who got arrested because she had her 8-year-old son walk half a mile home, and she got charged with like child endangerment or something.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. If you read The Coddling of the American Mind, they mention a group there. I think it's I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Free Range Kids or something like that, where it was talking about bringing some of that like trust back to kids and understanding that they're not like complete morons and that they can walk from one place to another.
They are capable of doing that.
Yeah, there's a story that this guy highlights in that book, which is I thought was a very good book, where it was talking about this mom who she had her kid like take the subway in New York to the zoo and like hang out there for the day and then come home. And I think he was like 10 or something like that. And is it possible for something to go wrong doing that? Sure. Is it likely? Not really. And the kid was able to do it just fine. And it was about bringing back this idea of like independence and a kind of a better statistical understanding of the risk factors involved.
Yeah, well, especially these days, as much as I kind of dislike how much surveillance is going on in public, and some of it like official surveillance, but also just everybody's recording everything all the time. If something happens to that kid, it'd probably be pretty easy to figure out what went wrong, and you'd be able to track him down. You know, like it's
Right.
It's totally
Or
feasible.
at least relative to the 90s.
Yes. So,
Yes.
as you're describing this, like a 10-year-old going to the zoo, it sounds nuts because, like, I can totally see people go, "Oh my God, there's a 10-year-old with no parents around." But then taking a step back, like, what's really the harm? Probably not much.
Well, and a kind of funny flip side to this is, on the one hand, I'm trying to imagine if I was at the zoo for some reason, walking around. Maybe if we went on a late afternoon gaming field trip to the zoo.
Which it's been far too long.
Uh-huh.
Right. And there was like a 10-year-old kid walking around by himself looking at the animals. And I mean, I might think, like, huh, I wonder if that kid's lost. And I would absolutely not talk to him.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like as a just some dude, I am maybe overly paranoid about like what people would think if I interacted with a child, because I think just like people are overly paranoid about like kids getting kidnapped and stuff like that, even though that's a statistical anomaly. They're also incredibly paranoid about men specifically interacting with children. In any capacity. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, when I heard that Caboose had a child, I became suspicious.
Yeah, it's very
where'd you get
easy.
Right. I'm like, what's going on here?
That is
Right.
kind of an unfortunate reality of like, oh, look at this helpless child. Let me make sure I don't help, because then I become guilty.
Right. Yeah, no,
Well,
it's not a good
and
instinct.
Caboose's situation is different because his scam is more of a, like, he's trying to develop a small industry, and so it's a labor thing.
Good.
Because I know for certain that he sometimes locks the kid in the mill, and they can't come out until they've produced so many trays.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. That's not a scam. That's actually how, that's the reason why people have had kids for almost the entire history of humanity.
is true.
I need more labor.
I'm
I don't
just
acknowledge that.
Continuing the tradition.
It's old-fashioned. It's classic.
Yeah, it's classic. Right. Exactly. Next,
I'm teaching them grit.
next on the Ombudsman report list, because I've still got 4 more things, and we're 40 minutes in. So we were talking about OSTs for games last
And I
time.
do have a comment on this. So
Yeah, let me just wrap up not wrap up, but kind of follow up. You were talking about, hey, you've got the music, just release it, please. That idea was the crux behind a lot of that Mick Gordon fiasco with the Doom
That's
2
what I was
soundtrack. Was that an OST is not just taking the game tracks and making sure you export it lossless and putting it on a CD. Like, there is mastering that goes into it, because just listening to a song is not the same as what you hear on the video game. Like, the video game is a looping track as opposed to a finished track. And it's usually all, like, normalized at a certain volume as opposed to mastered to sound like an actual song. So there is more OST work that goes into it to transform a game soundtrack into a CD quality production. And I'll link to all the Mick Gordon stuff for people to read. It is actually very interesting.
yeah. Do you want to finish the report, or can I do my rant
No, if you've got something about OSTs, go for it.
Okay.
And then I'll get to the session ones after that.
OST stands for original soundtrack.
That's correct.
Just a heads up on the late afternoon gaming podcast style guide. You will remember that I told all of you not to use acronyms or abbreviations without defining them first. So
my
that's
bad.
one demerit, Shepard.
Do you want to go back and correct yourself for ADD last time then?
No, because I meant what I said.
Okay.
So we were talking about Bayonetta on the previous session, and it's a great game. I've been enjoying it a lot. It is not the only game in that series. There are a couple of follow-up games, and
Bayonetta 2 and 3 come to mind.
yes, but there's also a spin-off game. It's like I don't even remember what it's called. It's like Bayonetta Origins, something.
Bayonetta Origins Wolverine, yeah, it was a great film.
It just came out recently, but for the main sequence games, they always have. We discussed specifically my hang up on the Bayonetta 1 soundtrack. I had 2 issues with it. I was having a hard time finding it lossless, and there was also a specific track that I was looking for. It was a Fly Me to the Moon remix. It turns
Ultimate
out that's
Climax remix.
The Infinite Climax.
Infinite. That's right. my bad.
Apparently they do that for every game, or at least for every main game, is they take, they've got some narrow criteria. They take a classic song that has a Frank Sinatra cover that has the word moon in the name, and they remix it and put it in the game. So the first game had Fly Me to the Moon. The second game...
It is oddly specific.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny, because you'd think, like, oh, that's 2 very specific things. It's probably a pretty shallow pool to be fishing from, and you would be wrong about that. There's like 20 songs that meet that criteria. But second game had a track called Moon River that they remixed for it, so that's the Infinite Climax mix of Moon River. And then the third game had something else. I haven't played the third game yet, but so the Bayonetta 2 soundtrack, also fantastic. And I was like, okay, I'll look into this as well. And ran into the exact same issue, where the soundtrack that's available for Bayonetta 2 is only available in MP3, and it doesn't have that Moon River remix. I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to do the same thing, because I bought the CD for Bayonetta 1, and the CD had the song. Okay, I'll just do that again. $1,300. I'm not buying that.
That's probably wise.
I'm like, come on, dude. Really?
How many death threats have you sent to Platinum Games? Have you tweeted at them yet?
No, I haven't tweeted at them yet. But it's like, to your point, sure, there's probably additional work that goes into it to make an OST, but they already did that work. Like, in this case, the CD was made. I want to give them money. Like, just let me do it.
It might have been more available when Bayonetta 2 came out, because I'm pretty sure Bayonetta 2 came out like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's been a while, but
and now it's a collector's item, so you missed out.
Yeah, but they've done it. I'm sure they have it. Like, they've got those files. They could put it up somewhere. Just do it. Just let me buy it.
Can you tell the motorcycles to stop driving by your place for the next couple hours?
Absolutely not. No, they never stop. But yeah, it's So a couple of days ago, it was $1,300. I actually looked this morning and couldn't find it at all. So somebody bought it. It's like, okay.
All right. Well, whoever that person is clearly more committed than you. So they pressed you out.
I mean, I guess I'm okay with that. I am okay losing
by the numbers,
that fight.
though, they're probably a listener.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And possibly Indonesian.
More likely than not. So
I am going to link that Moon River remix, though. It's fantastic. I wasn't familiar with...
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I guess it was Breakfast at Tiffany's. It came from that movie.
Okay.
I've never seen it, but whatever. Audrey Hepburn.
Is Frank Sinatra still alive? No.
I have no idea, dude.
All right.
But it's a banger.
For the session Ombudsman report, there's 3 points for this one. So at one point during the session, when Simon was trying to pick the lock, to which he actually already had a key, Duncan had me roll an int check. And it's sort of been a meme, at least between Duncan and I, for a long time, where just to like explain why that happened for anyone who might not understand. When you're doing something like an investigation or a mystery, or really it can happen in pretty much any TTRPG situation, a lot of times players will just go totally brain dead and not be able to figure out something very obvious. And so Duncan's favorite trick, and it's mine as well, for giving the player a hint that they're missing something, is you're basically implying by having their character do an int check that, okay, well, the player isn't smart enough. Let's see if their character is smart enough to be able to figure out this very obvious puzzle. And so if you're having the character roll an int check on some situation where it's not like clear that that's what they should be doing. It's just Duncan's way of telling you you're missing something and you're being stupid right now. So I'm gonna throw your character a bone because it's not their fault that they have you as a player. That's kind of how I interpret it. Duncan, do you have any
I'm
other
being
thoughts?
an asshole.
It's funny.
And
It's great.
I
I
played
love
in
it.
a couple of games, and I can't remember who was running these, but that was a pretty regular thing for them. Now I think this particular GM was maybe not very clear when they were giving us the clues or describing the scenes or things like that, and when we would stall and have trouble figuring out what to do next, and we would be like comparing notes and trying to come up with a plan, they would very patronizingly have our characters make intelligence checks to see if they could put the clues together. And
I love it.
It's it's well known in the TTRPG space that while it is pretty easy for a smart player to play a dumb character, it is considerably trickier for a dumb player to play a smart character. And that's all I'll say about that.
Thank you.
See, I was assuming that the intelligence check was to see if it was like an unshielded core, or, any of the, like, some really expensive lock, and the lockpicking lawyer will have a 30-second video on it, and you look at it and you go, oh no.
Oh, not another master lock.
And then you watch it and it turns out he picks it like 3 different ways in that 30 seconds.
Yeah, he's like, you can do this one with a tin can.
Yeah. Let me do that again to show you it was not a fluke.
Yeah. One other thing that came up, or the next thing that came up, was when Simon Redding was at O'Shamrocks, there was some discussion about him getting scammed, like a $3 burger. Oh my gosh, how much is that? So I kind of looked it up, or I was curious to see, whether that was, would that have been a bad deal? And the answer is no, it's actually a pretty good deal. So I checked inflation from 1995 to now. $3, it's like $5.97. It's almost exactly double. Now being May of 2023. So, not that inflation is the whole story, but excuse me. The equivalent that would be like a $6 burger today. And I looked up some prices at the most nearby Irish pubs for how much a burger would cost, and I think the lowest one I found was $14. So, a $3 burger at an Irish pub in 95 is probably a steal. It's actually probably a pretty good deal.
So I went to Subway recently. You remember the good old days, the $5 footlong?
Yeah.
It's like $15 now. I don't know if they just had like a bunch of legal fees from the whole Jared pedophilia fiasco.
I think that's probably it.
Well, and let's clarify. Not all footlongs were $5. It was
During
a handful.
February, it was.
It was a handful of like pretty bare bones footlongs.
Right, yeah, if you had any like specialty meats or anything like that, or you added bacon or anything,
right,
then yeah, it wouldn't be $5 anymore.
I saw a thing. I felt bad about laughing when I saw it, but it was a comment on the Jared situation. They said that he started with a mild cholesterol problem and he ended with a child problem.
Yeah.
Oh no,
That's bad.
but pretty funny.
Yeah. I'm gonna use the bleep for that.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead and bleep that thing so everyone will just be like, I have no idea what he said.
Exactly.
It made me laugh.
Well, that's the thing with bleeping is you generally know what the person said. It's
In
just,
this case,
it's
maybe
fit for
not.
TV. Well, they can Google it.
This one, I don't know.
Last thing I had was when Simon was when he went home after O'Shamrocks and he was turning on the TV. We were kind of talking about what shows were actually popular in 1995. So
Leave it to Beaver.
right, exactly. The Flintstones had just come out.
I don't know if they had TVs back then.
Gilligan's Island.
So some of the most popular TV shows. So the top 3 when I looked it up were ER, Seinfeld, and Friends. Were the 3 most popular shows. And then further down the list is a show that was like the next show that we might actually be familiar with, which was Home Improvement. I think it was
Okay.
number 8 or 9 or something. So those were kind of the most popular. But like I think Law and Order was already on at that time.
But were there like 8 different kinds?
Right, Law and Order SVU, the best Law and Order, was not on yet.
Okay.
With Ice-T. And that is actually the end of the Ombudsman report, which is good because the time right now is 53 minutes
no problem.
for the recording time. Which,
How long are they usually?
The Ombudsman report? We're usually done in the first 15 or 20
talk,
minutes.
I mean.
Table Talk is usually like an hour.
That's fine.
Don't get me wrong. This is a fine table talk. Usually, we're able to clear the ombudsman report earlier. We just and this is fine. We just kind of talked more about the things I brought up.
Yeah, we're trying to we're engaging more with what you're bringing to the table, and you should be happy about that. And I'm annoyed that you're not thanking us.
I didn't.
But anyway,
say I was
listeners,
unhappy.
stitch incoming. We're about to transition to, just table talk. The regular version and not the ombudsman report. So stitch incoming.
Stitch incoming. That's so weird.
Like I
get
get
it.
why people put it in, but
I still don't. Like, it still doesn't make sense.
I think
to
it's
me.
a retention thing, right? Where you're trying to say like, don't click away. There's something else
yeah,
coming.
I think
So we really think it is the like 2023 version of like, don't change the channel.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Well, my
don't touch it.
impression
Put down that
is,
remote.
like you put that in because at the beginning the video is not you, and it may be like content that somebody's seen before, right? They're like, oh, I've seen this video. But if you put Stitch incoming, then you know that someone's going to react to the video after, and you go, oh, I should watch to see what the reaction is. It doesn't do anything for me, but I can see the intent behind it.
Well,
Because
and
I do want to start putting out more reaction content. Not because I think it's really lazy or easy to put together or anything.
Yeah, of course not.
I just, but I thought maybe we could do one of those, like a real Dungeon Master reacts. And maybe I could
real
do one of
DM
those like
reacts
GQ
to-
videos or whoever does that, like Men's Health or something, where they like have me on to answer questions about being a Dungeon Master.
So it should be, you should do a real DM reacts to the Dungeons and Dragons movie and like situations where you're like, well, that druid used wild shape like 7 times in a row, and that's just, you only get 2 a day. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
so this is not realistic.
Yeah, I wouldn't allow this in my game, but it's a film, it's supposed to be fun, I get it, but that wouldn't
Right,
happen.
but I know this is for babies, so
Right.
I do kind of want to see it now. You talked it up a lot.
It's super good. I loved it. I thought it was just wonderful.
Caboose was, I think, saying that he really liked it.
Yeah, I was trying to, convince you guys to go see it.
That's actually why I didn't see it.
I know. I pushed
Yeah.
too hard. I thought it was amazing. It may be amazing is too strong a word, but it's a lot of fun, and which
Could
sounds
use a
like
more like sober, kind of conservative word for it.
yeah. It was very much a movie.
Definitely
Wow.
one of the films ever made. But
if you made
no,
a list of every movie, this would be on it.
this is on it. No, one of the things, just my kind of plug for, I thought it was going to be like a lot of kind of like nostalgia bait stuff that you see whenever people are making a film about a property, where it was just going to be a bunch of references like, oh, I know that thing. I thought they were going to just reference a bunch of like, modules or whatever.
I saw it and I clapped.
Right. Yeah. The Millennium Falcon flies by. So I thought it was going to be a lot of that. References to stuff that you've seen, or other D&D content or whatever, or like cameo appearances by popular D&D players. I didn't know what I thought it was going to be, but something like that. And it wasn't. What it really felt like to me, it was made by people who actually play Dungeons and Dragons, and like a lot of the situations that come up in the movie are what they feel like classic TTRPG moments, like things that actually happen at your table, and I thought that was really actually quite charming and very funny.
Who was behind the movie? Like what? Like who made it?
George Soros.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Like it
What do you
wasn't like
mean?
a
Who
Disney
made it? Like
thing.
who directed it?
Well, is it? Oh, Marvel presents Dungeons and Dragons. Like what's I don't know,
I don't know.
What production house was behind the movie.
I don't know. Let's find out.
I don't know. I mean, it's owned by, like, Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, so I don't know if
Hasbro
also
was at the
own-
beginning. Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, it doesn't look like it was. It just Hasbro. Okay.
Yeah.
Directed by
Paramount.
Jonathan Goldstein.
Yeah, and I was saying to Caboose the other day, I think that the casting of Michelle Rodriguez as a barbarian was it's like absolute genius, because she always plays like this over the top tough person, and a lot of times that just doesn't really make sense, or it's not that it doesn't make sense, it just seems like it's a bit much, but for playing a barbarian in a D&D movie, it
sounds like the
perfect.
perfect casting for her.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing. I thought she stole every scene she was in. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought it was legitimately heartwarming at the end as well. But as I've said before, I'm a huge sap when it comes to even vaguely sad things happening in a movie.
So that's
but what
that's
about-
surprising to me, because I didn't know that about you, and I thought I knew you pretty well.
Yeah.
What about the Delta Green movie? When is that going to happen?
There was
Doug, I wish there was a Delta Green movie.
Wasn't there a Color Out of Space movie that had Nicolas Cage?
Yes, and I haven't seen it.
Maybe we
Nick
should
Cage,
watch that
one of
together.
the actors of our time.
You know what? He gets a lot of shit. I think he's really good.
Yeah, no, he's in a lot of really great stuff.
That's not the same as saying he's really good. Why did you say that?
He's also quite good in those things.
Oh, okay.
We should watch.
Like, yeah, he's around when a lot of interesting stuff happens.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
Here's what I want to do. I want to watch The Color Out of Space, and I want to watch Con Air.
And then Season of the Witch.
I don't even know what that is.
Hey, I like Season of the Witch.
Season of the
I
Witch.
still haven't seen it. I was gonna watch it after you had me watch Solomon Kane, just to compare the two.
Oh, that was a great movie. I
Solomon
watched
Kane
Solomon Kane with a
is-
friend, and she was a real naysayer going in. She was like, "This looks terrible. This looks stupid." She was so into it by the end. I was like, "It's a great movie."
I could take it or leave
Solomon
it.
Kane
I
is
was
the
not
Dungeon
impressed.
Crawl Classics movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Was there?
So and
was that a
it's based
standalone
on some
movie?
real property.
Yes.
What are you asking? Like if there was another Solomon Kane movie?
Yeah,
Or,
like I want it to be a franchise. I want there to be like a Solomon Kane 8. You know,
it's like the Fast and
I
Furious.
don't
It just
ever
keeps
want to
getting more
run out of
outrageous.
Solomon Kane.
Yeah, I was
no,
not that
it's a
impressed.
standalone.
Did you? They're the people behind John Wick are saying that that's going to become like a franchise now. They're like, we're never going to stop making John Wick movies.
I still haven't seen the fourth one.
I'm okay
You know what?
with not having more John Wick.
I have enjoyed all the John Wick movies, but I will confess to you that I actually went and saw the fourth John Wick movie in a movie theater, which is I don't know. I just don't see movies in theaters that often, but I was just so tired by the end of the fourth one. I was not enjoying it anymore. I don't know what the runtime of the fourth one is, but it felt very long, and by the end it just felt tedious. And there's a particular scene that I was like, okay, I'm just done with this. Where it's a race against the clock, and he is trying to. He has to be at a specific place. It's at the top of this long staircase by a certain time, and he's, it's down to the wire. And of course, when he gets to that staircase, it's the whole staircase is crawling with like assassins that are going to try to kill him.
Sure.
And so he fights like 100 different people, which, and of course, I mean, I'm not complaining that John Wick is fighting people. That's what the John Wick movies are about. And individually, a lot of that stuff's very interesting, but it's very repetitive. And then by the time he gets almost to the top, someone like knocks him down or kicks him or something, and he falls like 300 feet all the way to the bottom. And you're like, no, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
And it's not like it wasn't like I reacted to it and thought like, oh no, this is very suspenseful. Is he going to make it up in time? I was like, I see what you're doing here. I'm not, like, I don't like it. I don't want to watch more of this. But who's the dude Ip Man.
Keanu Reeves?
Oh,
He's in that, right?
No. You're talking about
Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah.
different person? Or is it the same person?
No, that's it, man.
Okay, well, he's in that.
Donnie Yen is pretty awesome.
He's great. I really liked him. But he's also, you don't watch him shooting people in the back of the head for 4 straight hours. So.
Right. He's one of those, like, really talented, like, physical actors, like being a martial artist type.
He's the new Jackie Chan.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the first John Wick, like, the story was really compelling in it.
I like the first. It's the only one I've seen. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
I like the first 3.
Okay, yes.
And the fourth
I've
is
only seen the one.
solid. I was just irritated by the end of it.
the second and third ones, like, the story, I felt like I didn't really care about it, and so the action, to me, it's not that it was unmotivated. Like, I understood why it was happening. I just didn't care about why it was happening, and so it didn't fall flat. I just didn't find it nearly as interesting. Whereas the first film, it felt like a much more personal motivation in the first one, and then afterwards it was just, okay, now we're just in this world where literally everyone's an assassin. I don't know, it was kind of weird.
No, I agree. I think the story of the first one is interesting, and it's a neat kind of inversion where everyone is afraid of the protagonist the whole time instead of it being an underdog thing.
Yeah.
But the
Because they set
second one
that
was
up
kind of
perfectly.
forgettable. The third one had just that extended scene with Halle Berry and those 2 terrifying dogs.
Yeah. No, cool moment for
made
sure.
the movie.
So, like I said, I only saw the first one, but I did see a clip from one of the sequels where it's like John Wick and somebody who's trying to kill him in it looks like it may be a subway.
This is the second one.
Okay. And by subway, I mean like a train station, not like a pedophile center. And they're
You're
shooting
buying $15 sandwiches.
They're shooting at each other with silenced pistols. And it's like they're so quiet that they're just kind of like taking pot shots as they're walking and nobody is noticing.
Right, they're not looking at each other.
Yeah.
He's low and the other guy's high, and they're just like shooting across their chests at each other.
It's something like that. And it's like, as I was watching this clip, I was like, if this actually happened in real life, everybody in the room would, like, not only would they have noticed, they would be deaf.
No, they wouldn't be deaf. So the whole purpose of suppressors is, it's not that it makes it quieter, but it is for the purpose of being able to fire indoors without deafening people.
Yeah, but if you're in the middle of basically a hard tunnel, I don't know that
It would
you're
be
gonna...
a loud, noticeable crack.
Yeah, it would be
I
loud
think
and
we
noticeable,
can
but it
agree.
would not deafen people.
I think by the
Yes.
20th shot, you would probably have hearing damage.
Well, I mean, now I guess I'm biased because I do have some of those like bulletproof suits.
that you buy with your assassin coins.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd like a dinner reservation or whatever.
Right. So and
for dessert.
Yeah.
I have found though that when I try to say like have a nice dinner at a place like Subway, and when I order my foot-long tuna sandwich, I then slide a large gold coin and just give the cashier a significant look.
Right.
They don't know what to do.
Is it one of those sunlight tokens that I gave you?
Yeah.
I do really like those.
Have you guys given them to people for helping you?
I have been
Well, I so
considering.
seldom need help.
I've been
true.
considering handing them out at work, or just like putting them around.
I do. I use them for things like inspiration at my tables.
Oh, okay.
So, because they're big and satisfying. You know, it's these big, heavy coins, and so when people have to spend them, like people just like handling them because they're these big, heavy, satisfying coins.
They're super heavy. Carrying a box of 100 of them is very annoying.
Did you order 100 of them?
Yes.
Oh my god.
The problem at our table having physical coins is that people can now steal them, which was an issue where someone ended up with all the inspiration last game.
That sounds like a fun mechanic, though. Is that you can There's two ways to get inspiration
true.
now. You can either earn it or steal it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
I have to be pretty careful now about people actually handing the inspiration to me when they use it, because otherwise it'll find its way underneath the dice tray and so, like they'll be like, oh yeah, I use this, and then it it gets tucked underneath something, and then later they'll be like, oh I'm gonna use one of my inspiration.
And kind of
How
the
many
Eisen
times is that?
situation where for a couple of sessions I had like 20 latent inspiration.
Right. Yeah. So now your inspiration expires at the end of the session, so it has to be spent there.
I think that's a good policy.
Yeah.
Kind of speaking of ordering things in unnecessary quantities, you talking about how you got 100 of those coins. I
don't see that those two things are related, but go on.
I have successfully converted people at my workplace to
Scientology.
We do use pencils a lot. Like there's a place for pens, and there's situations where everything's in pen, but there's also for us we have to pretty frequently use and then reuse paper products, so you want something erasable. And I've gotten people on the Palomino Blackwing train.
Oh yeah.
We discovered recently, because they sell a couple of, like, you can get the 602, you can get the Pearl, whatever. You can also build your own custom pencil, but you have to get 1,000 of them.
But how much does that cost?
So
$3,000.
they don't give a price, which is a little concerning. It's one of those like contact us situations.
They're bespoke. Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
So I've been toying with the idea, but it is funny now. My little cohort, we're all on the Blackwing train, but there's so many of them because people keep buying them, and they'll like end up in other locations, and people will be like, where are these pencils coming from? Like, what is this? This is a nice pencil. And it's entertaining for us to see other people just kind of running into them randomly and then going like, oh wow, I should buy some of these.
Yeah.
But I also discovered recently that Blackwing is also the name of a car. There's a I don't remember who makes it.
What?
There's a Blackwing car.
Also, Nightwing is the name of Dick Grayson's Robin after he leaves Batman, so probably people confuse that as well.
Cadillac makes a car called the Blackwing. And one of the guys I work with recently got a Blackwing car, and that makes conversations pretty confusing sometimes.
Did he get it because of the pencil?
I don't think so. It's a nice looking car though.
Yeah. I can see getting a $3 pencil mixed up with a $103,000 Cadillac all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I'm not much of a car guy, but when I walk past it in the parking lot, it's pretty sick.
You guys want to close this out so we can move on to the session?
I suppose.
Yeah, I guess if we have to. I'm gonna link the page for customizing your own Palomino Blackwing pencils.
Can you also link the page for customizing your own Cadillac Blackwing?
I could do that.
Yeah. So, Caboose, I'd like to thank you for coming on this session of Table Talk.
It was a good time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for supplying us with, we paid for them, but with these dice trays, I really do like them. And
thanks for supporting the shop.
I hopefully I'll convince somebody tonight to, at my in-person game, to check out your site and order a dice tray and a dice bag, because I will be bringing all of mine
this
tonight.
session order a tray and a bag, so you'll see that.
I was going to message you about later.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did you already see it?
I'll tell you, because I ordered you a dice tray earlier this week.
Oh shit. Okay, well I guess I'm gonna have 2 dice trays. Okay. I'm good with it.
Yeah, it'll be there tomorrow. But if you want to return one of them, that's fine.
No, I'll take 2 dice trays. That
all right.
I do enough like in-person general board gaming that I have use for it. So.
And this is actually good, because what you can do is when someone else wants to use it, oh, hey, I've got an extra one, you can use it, and then they're going to get so used to it that they're going to need to order one.
You can't really go back after you have a premium dice tray from Small to Dolphin. Link in the description.
Well, thank you for that order. It's awesome.
Oh, Caboose, while I'm thinking about it, I was playing Advanced Squad Leader yesterday, and that's a target-rich environment for you.
Oh, yeah?
It's a lot of people that are either rolling in like a glass, you know, they just have like a cup on the table that they roll the dice into, or they'll take the box, like they'll take a board game box and roll on the top of that, like savages.
Oh no.
Yeah. Have you seen the dice rolling in the glass thing before? You just like put your hand on the top and then shake it. Like, have you seen that before?
No, I mean, I had seen people have dice in a glass that they would then pour out onto the table.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they would shake it up and then, but in this case, they are using the glass as a tray.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense to me, honestly. I kind of like it.
I think that's an
well,
ASL
no,
thing.
you don't like it.
Yeah, no, I hate it.
Yeah.
But
I
I
don't like it. You like what Spalted Dolphin is doing.
If you could make like whiskey glass sized wood trays
just like
that
a
you could,
tumbler.
put your hand over, and then shake that. Actually, that'd be pretty sick. I'd buy one.
One thing that I do want to point out, because I had not visited the Spalted Dolphin page until this session. And so I knew you made the dice bags, but I hadn't actually seen them yet. Actually, no, that's not true. Duncan had one, and I had seen it closed up, but I hadn't seen the inside. The inner pockets is a really neat idea. The way they're set up, listeners, is that when you open the bag, there's like a middle cavity that you can put just whatever in, but then also on the inside there are just six, or it looked like six, evenly spaced pockets that you can put like specific things in. So you can have like a little inner pocket for your D4s and then one for your D6s or whatever. And then kind of an everything grab bag pocket in the middle. That's a neat idea. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, we just put these up on the shop like 2 days ago, but they're not that taxing to make for me at least, but they look really
Not for you since you're not making them yet.
exactly. But I think they look really good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. I don't know why I haven't seen that before. It seems like such an obvious thing now that I've seen it.
Yeah,
I'm
I have
very excited
one,
about that bag.
I mean, they're meant for like traditional 7-die TTRPG sets. But I have a lot of like kind of, I don't know, auxiliary dice, I guess, as a DM. So like I have a weather die, I have a moon phase die, or a loot die, things like that I find are fun to use. And like I even have a set of dice that's like race, class, and mood, and so I will roll those to determine like who this NPC is that you just came across.
That's actually
that's a
a really good
hashtag
idea.
mood.
I love that.
It's a lot of fun too because it'll be be like Turtle Paladin unhappy.
But where do you find that? Where did you find a moon phase die?
Well, this was actually tricky. So the moon phase one, I thought I would be able to find something on Etsy, and I couldn't. So I looked around on Amazon.
Etsy's too busy. They shut down after I asked for too many body pillow custom orders.
Must be. But on Amazon, it was the Steve Jackson Games makes a moon phase die, which
Classic
is interesting
Steve
because it's a D6 that basically just has portions of a circle filled in, and the idea is depending on not just what face is up, but on the orientation of it, you know if it's waning or waxing.
Oh, that's neat.
cool.
Okay. What if it's like from the top down? What does that mean?
Fantasy World.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's the other moon, second moon.
Yeah.
Hey, Caboose, I just ordered the green and bronze bag that I was admiring the other day because I wanted to get it before somebody else did because I love it.
You being on this table talk is probably the most profitable thing you've done in months.
It is most profitable. Yeah.
But you're going to get that Joe Rogan bump,
That's true.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I want to do
Well, I
now
mean-
is I want to get more, now that I'm getting a dice bag,
Sharp edge dice.
well, no, more metal dice from Die Hard Dice.
Yeah.
I'm not down with the metal dice.
I actually don't own any dice that aren't metal dice. And actually that
Really?
maybe I should get some polymer dice because What's Die Hard Dice is my go-to for metal stuff. What's the best way to? I guess they also do polymer dice. What do you guys get your dice from?
I do wormwood.
Wormwood.
It depends on what kind of dice you want. So, if you want just very normal but nice looking dice, I think Die Hard is a good option. If you want an interesting set of dice, maybe something that's like thematic, something that suits a particular character or a campaign or something. If you go on Etsy, there are so many interesting little stores that make really cool poly dice.
I've seen things like oh, these are Ranger dice, and they're kind of themed around a certain class.
Yeah, I mean, everything from interesting colors to like different textures on the dice, or different ways that they do numbering, or in some cases it'll be a translucent die that has something in the middle. Those can be hard to read sometimes, but there's a shop
that
I
feels
like.
like glow in the dark dice level of like gimmicky bullshit to me.
I don't know. I mean, so another thing you can do if you're not necessarily looking for sets is you can go on Etsy or Amazon and buy a pound of random dice.
Oh, okay.
And that's,
There
it's
might even
similar
be a
to
Moonface die
like,
in there. You
buying
don't know.
Legos on eBay. So I have a big, as part of my like DM kit, I have a box full of sharpened pencils of miscellaneous types. I have a box full of like lots of dice. And so the idea is someone who either doesn't have their own stuff yet or forgot theirs. I have plenty of dice for everyone to use, and I have enough interesting dice that they can use different ones each time. A couple of trays, a couple of, just regular stuff you need to have. There are also some cool things to do with dice that I guess I hadn't considered before. Like, when you're playing something like D&D, typically the way the dice are set up is the numbers on the sides of the dice will be distributed in such a way that like the 20 and 19 and 18 and 17 aren't right next to each other.
Well, it's typically set up so that opposite sides always add up to the same number.
Right. But that's not true for a game like Magic the Gathering, where you're not using the die to roll, you're using it as a counter. And so whatever that face is up, you don't want to have to hunt from 20 to 19. You want it to be right next to it. Those are called spin down dice. And so there's a little shop called G10 Spin Down that makes these D10s that sit in little trays, so you can use them as like double or triple or quadruple digit HP counters or other types of counters. There's all kinds of cool stuff out there.
I just opened up their page. Yeah, they got the little tray that it sits in.
Yep, they're great, and they're really cheap. I have these D4 potion bottle things. It's a potion bottle, but the sides are squared and have numbers cut into them. So when I give players health potions, they don't just write it on their sheet. I actually hand them dice. And the way I've been running it for DCC recently is, like I run a game where it's a pretty big party and we play right after work. So inevitably one or two people won't be able to make it. And I don't like other people controlling their We'll just do that session with whatever characters we have. I'm not going to have them control other player characters, which means they may go into kind of difficult encounters, one or two men down. So in cases like that, I will just give them health potions to kind of offset the difficulty. And I'll hand them, like last time I handed each of them 4 of these health potion dice and said, your character has a vial that has like 4 sips of potion. And as an action, you can drink as much of it as you want.
It's like chugging down Estus.
Right, and so in a turn, you can chug the whole bottle and roll 4 of these dice, or you can take a little sip and just roll 1. And it's more fun than it would ordinarily be, because they actually have this potion die to roll. So
That's a good
there's
idea.
all kinds of cool stuff like this.
Hey, remember like half an hour ago when you were like, "Yo, let's close out table talk."
Hey, thanks for joining us, Caboose, on this Nah, it's all good. But I think we probably should transition into the session here.
Fair enough. Well, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for being exciting about this hobby.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So thank you for joining us. Everyone, please check out Spalted Dolphin on Etsy.
Thank you very much.
They may not have any products now that we've bought all of it. But
we
they-
got everything, but check again next week and they should
Check
have
back
some
next
stuff.
week.
Yeah.
Yep. I know what I'm doing today.